Hello, my name is Alyssa, and today I have an update for you with my eyeshadow rotation project for 2025. And so what I've been doing in this project is randomly picking 4 eyeshadow shades to roll in, and the shades can be singles or just magnetic shades that are in palettes, things that I can move around. And I am trying to use those 4 eyeshadow shades 4 times before I roll out the entire palette, but I also build around them other shades to make a cohesive color story. So if that sounds interesting to you, then please keep watching. So like I said, I am rolling out, which is why I'm here with an update, the 4 shades, and the palette that I had was this one right here, minus this shade, so just ignore that one. For the 4 shades that I was most focusing on, this Tarte eyeshadow, I actually only needed to use it 2 times because I'd already used it 2 times before, and if I use something in other palettes, I count it for, the year. And so I did that. And then this purple shade is from Sydney Grace. I used that 4 times. This is a blue from my Vivid Pigments palette from Colored Rain, also used. And this is another Sydney Grace eyeshadow. And it's kind of like this, dirty gold type of color. It's like a darker satin, but it's interesting. So even, I'm not the type who usually uses a dark shimmer all over the lid, but it's interesting. So yeah, those I used all the 4 times. I also used this rose shade 4 times, so that is done. And then for the other eyeshadows, I used Light Year 2 times. I used this orangey shade 2 times. I used this, Flannel, I also finished up. I only had to use it once or twice more in this to get the 4, so that was done. Anomaly I used 2 times. This dark shimmer I used 2 times. This bright pink I used 3 times. And that's everything here. So the ones that were not finished in this can get rolled in, the future, and then I would just finish off those tally marks. So I also just wanted to update because I'm not going to do a full another video on this palette, but I kind of have it in this eyeshadow rotation because this was my dupe palette that I made for the Lovers palette from Cosmic Beauty. And when I was doing this, I decided to go ahead and count these for uses. So I'm not dismantling this one yet, but I do have some plans to do it soon. I just figured I'd go ahead and kind of give you an update. I have used, a lot of these shades. I've actually finished off this Good God shade, and I finished this Vivid Fuchsia shade. And then the other shades have been mostly used just a couple times. Actually, these have been used, it was, I think 4, I realized I didn't have it written here. So I think it was 4 and, no, I think they were both 5. I think they were both so 4 uses is what I'm trying to do for this kind of project. But then overall, these are shades, different ones, that are from some new makeup that I brought in this year. And when I have new makeup, I try to use all of that stuff 5 times each. So it takes a little while with the eyeshadow palettes, but I'm getting there. So yeah, this has kind of helped with that. But there's definitely shades, that I've only used, like I said, a couple times. So we'll see how many more uses I get. But I wanted to just kind of point it out. So if there are times when, something's getting, rolled on my app and I'm like, oh, I've already done that one. And you're like, but when did you do that one? It might have been in this palette or just, with some other kinds of backgrounds. Like I said, in this one, how there's some shades that are not quite done or that I did finish. So now we get to draw in the new shades. Okay, so before I move on to which eyeshadows I picked, I realized I forgot to talk about the Dollhouse palette because when I have my eyeshadows, I also have a palette to go along with them. So this palette was actually really easy to get the looks in. Just, you know, if I need something quick, I know that I can easily grab some shades in here. They're gonna work the way I want them to. And you can tell this shade in particular, I have it in another project, so it's actually still hanging around in my makeup bag for now. But I did use the 5 looks. I don't think I actually got pictures of all the 5 looks, unfortunately. Sometimes life just happens and I don't always get a picture of my makeup or think about it. So anyway, I did do that. So technically that palette could be done for the year, but I'm not going to be done using it. I'm going to be continuing to bring it in for other things or just to play with it. I also wanted to mention before I bring in these new shades that I was curious how it's been going with uses. So I found that of the 132 eyeshadows I have available for this project, I have already finished the 4 uses on 61 of them. So I'm almost halfway done and we are not very far into the year. So I feel really good about completing this. And that also makes me feel good because I didn't want to complete it and just barely complete it. I wanted, you know, to have time that I could go and use these shades more than just those, you know, 4 times and use the favorites and all of that. So feeling good. All right. So like I said, the shades that we're bringing in, I am also going to just have, I did like B-roll with this, so it might show up a little easier, but just to point out, the shades that I rolled in were Rosette from Terra Moons, and then this, it's from my Vivid Pigments palette, so it doesn't really have a name, or I guess it did have a name at some point, but I don't have the name on there. I just call it number 8, so it's just a purple shade. Then I had this shade called Hop On from ColourPop. And I should point out that this shade has already been used 2 times so far this year, and Rosette has been used once, so they already started with some uses. And then finally, why did I not label it? Oh, no, it was number 17. I think that's this one. All right. Yes, okay. Sorry, I didn't label. So this one is from Sydney Grace, and it's just number 17. So there you go. All right, so all the other shades that I have here are ones that I picked to kind of make a cohesive color story. So, you know, knowing that I had this very warm shade and this warm shade, and then these two kind of went together well. So it's like, all right, well, how can I add more to go with the purples? Well, this Maids and Milking shade in Anomaly, they had already been in other rotations, and I decided to try to finish their tallies with this rotation. This shade is from Sydney Grace, and it's a nice little shifty shade, and I want to get more play with that. And then, oh, this is another shade that was in a rotation that had 2 uses that, you know, I figure why not? Like, I can kind of see, if you will, those shades as being like a little color story, like pinky purple moment. This shade I'm actually working on in a different project, and I figured why not bring it in here as well, because it does work with this little color story as well. And then, let's see. Nothing else has been brought in for anything else. They're all going to be brand new. So this is the shade Times Square from Sydney Grace. This is just a brown that I had from Sydney Grace. This is another Sydney Grace. This is Snake Eyes from ColourPop. And this is a Vivid Pigments shade. So you can tell I was trying to go kind of warm and neutral. Having these 2 dark shades were meant to kind of help, you know, deepen whether I'm going more warm or a little bit cooler. And then this shade, part of the reason I brought it in was I realized it works well as a base with some interesting multi-chrome types of shadows on top. So whether I'm using like this shade that I was talking about or just other shades I have, I want to kind of work it in. And yeah. And then you're like, well, what palette should I bring in with this? And I'm kind of, you know, again, thinking about the pinks, purple, reddish, orangey kind of colors. So I decided my Zulu palette would be a good pairing for this. Let me show you. All right, so here are the shades inside. Okay, well that was unfortunate. I had an alarm go off while I was trying to do this, but okay. So here we have the shades that probably let me pull it back so you can see everything, along with these shades. So I figure, you know, I have then a little bit more pink, purple, orange, and all in this palette. And so that could go well with what is already here. These colors might seem a little bit bright and colorful for this time of year, but if you know me, you know I like wearing color all of the time. And I feel like sometimes I like to go extra colorful when it is dark outside, that it just sort of feels like the weather calls for it or needs it. So yeah, so these are the shadows that I'm gonna be working on for this rotation. And like I said, I'm very happy with how it's been going so far. I feel like I have pulled in a lot of eyeshadows and just really enjoying making the palettes. So if you enjoyed watching it, please give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, then you can do that too. And until my next video, I hope you'll be doing well, and I'll see you then. Bye.